No one noticed when he disappeared, not at first. There was no funeral, no announcement, no dramatic goodbye post with hollow likes from people who didn't care. One day he was part of the noise, the next, he was the absence no one remembered to feel. His phone went silent, his calendar collapsed, the inbox emptied, and yet he was not dead, he had simply left. The tragedy is not that people vanish. The tragedy is that when they do, the world doesn't stop. It doesn't even blink. It moves forward with an unsettling calm, like a machine that was never built with you in mind. And that machine keeps turning, whether you scream or not. The lie is simple, that being visible equals being alive, that constant presence equals relevance, that effort equals survival. Every slogan, every rule, every ritual of the modern world orbits this one myth. Stay in the game or the game will forget you. He didn't believe it. He tested something no one dares to try: strategic absence. He didn't run from life. He removed himself from its theater. No protests, no notes, no performance. He stopped reacting, stopped replying. He abandoned the rituals of connection, not because he was broken, but because he saw what most never allow themselves to see. The game was rigged to devour him the moment he stopped feeding it. And that's exactly what he did. He starved the game. The discomfort isn't that someone left. The discomfort is that it worked. His silence made him stronger. His retreat gave him vision. He watched others burn out chasing validation, loyalty, struggle, legacy. He sat in stillness while they called it laziness. He disappeared from their metrics, their meetings, their stories. And in doing so, he became immune. Because when no one sees you, no one targets you. When no one expects you, no one prepares for you. He didn't vanish in defeat. He vanished in calculation. Everyone is trying to be seen. Loud voices, sharpened identities, curated personalities posted like ads for attention. Everyone is running from the same fear, that without confirmation, they will vanish. And they're right, they will. Because their existence depends on being noticed. They only feel alive when someone claps, when someone watches, when someone responds. Remove that reflection and they collapse. Because what they've built isn't a self, it's a projection. Fragile, needy, and expensive to maintain. He didn't want to be maintained. He wanted to exist beneath the surface, untouchable, untethered, real. He understood something obscene, that being forgotten is a form of freedom. No expectations, no loyalty, no illusion of community. When no one thinks of you, no one owns you. No one chains you to their version of who you are supposed to be. He chose that silence, not as surrender, but as rebellion. And rebellion, in its purest form, is not noise, it's withdrawal. We are trained like dogs to stay active, to stay connected, to stay available. We are punished for leaving, not physically, but existentially. Through erasure. Ignore a message, and you're rude. Cancel a plan, and you're cold. Question the script, and you're dangerous. But what if erasure isn't punishment? What if it's liberation? He made no excuses. He owed no one an explanation. He didn't vanish because of burnout or failure. He didn't retreat to recover. He retreated to observe, to let the mask of the world slip while everyone thought he had quit the game. And while they shouted over each other for scraps of recognition, he studied. Not the world, but what the world does to those who play too long. You are not rewarded for your presence. You are used, and once you exhaust your usefulness, the system you served won't grieve. It will replace you faster than you can draft your resignation letter. The game does not pay loyalty with protection. It pays it with slow death disguised as opportunity. He saw that, so he made himself useless and became untouchable. That is the paradox. To win, you must appear dead to those who want to consume you. Because nothing drains power like being seen by the wrong eyes, judged by the wrong minds, and tied to the wrong timelines. Disappearance, then, is not loss, it is insulation. Here's the truth no one dares say aloud. If you vanish and nothing collapses, then you were never truly part of anything real. And if you were never part of anything real, why are you still trying to belong? He was not running from society. He was escaping gravity, the false weight of roles, expectations, and performance. He removed his name from the roster. Not because he couldn't win, but because the prize was wrought dressed as prestige. This is not a story about depression. This is not a fable of self-discovery. This is not a poem about loneliness. This is a calculated strategy. Disappear to become unkillable. Retreat to become invisible. Erase the signal and the noise loses interest. And once the noise forgets you, you're finally free to act. The uncomfortable question isn't, why did he disappear? The uncomfortable question is, what did he gain by leaving that no one gains by staying? And if silence made him stronger, then what is your noise doing to you? To understand why his disappearance was not madness, one must first dismantle the dogma of participation. The modern world sells involvement as virtue. It urges presence. It rewards responsiveness. It engineers platforms where silence is punished algorithmically and absence is treated as failure. The man did not rebel against these systems emotionally. He rejected them logically because he recognized a deeper pattern, that visibility is vulnerability and participation is often a slow, consensual surrender. In the world as it stands, everyone is invited to speak, but only if they speak on schedule. Everyone is offered a voice, but only if it harmonizes with the chorus. He saw this for what it was, not inclusion, but domestication. The louder the world grows, the less it tolerates anything not pre-approved by its rhythm. And so he withdrew. This was not apathy, it was war by other means. He saw that every opinion was bait, every interaction a data point, every conversation a performance scored silently by unseen watchers. There is no longer a neutral presence. Every act is captured, judged, repurposed. Even solitude is expected to be live-streamed now. He refused. People mistook it for defeat. They always do, because in a world of manic display, withdrawal looks like dying. But withdrawal is not death. It is the creation of private territory in a landscape of total surveillance. He no longer wished to be mapped. No one teaches the cost of participation. They teach the fear of missing out. They do not speak of the cognitive erosion that comes from being constantly perceived, the deformity that arises when every action is filtered through the imagined gaze of others. He chose a different model, to exist without being decoded. In a society drunk on transparency, opacity is heresy. And yet, that heresy was his armor. Most people believe that survival comes from proving their value. They exhaust themselves trying to be useful, liked, visible, needed. But usefulness is a leash. Visibility is a spotlight that blinds. Need is a trap disguised as intimacy. He did not want to be needed. He wanted to be unreadable, because what cannot be read cannot be controlled. He ceased sharing his opinions because every opinion is a vulnerability. He ceased updating his status because every update is an offer to be judged. He ceased explaining his absence because explanations are confessions that you still care. He severed the lines not to hurt others, but to make himself ungraspable. He understood that when you stop being legible, you stop being manipulated. Disappearance is not the end of relevance, it is its purification. When a man vanishes intentionally, he triggers the anxiety of those who remain, because his silence becomes a mirror. In it, they see the noise they've become. In it, they hear the echo of their dependence on performance. His absence doesn't fade, it thickens. It becomes presence by contrast, and while others decay in the spotlight, his shadow sharpens. This is why most cannot follow him, not because they lack the ability to lead, but because they lack the spine to not be seen. There is a myth that meaning is made through connection, but he realized meaning is not found in being with others. It is found in being untouched by their hunger. Others search for affirmation. He sought clarity. To disappear is to admit that the rules are lies. It is to say, I will not compete for a place in your architecture. I will not bleed just to stay in your frame. I will not wear the mask of the grateful slave. His life before was filled with negotiation, with compromise disguised as maturity, with emotional taxation imposed by the weak and expectations enforced by the comfortable. He saw it all, the games of status, the politics of praise, the slavery of belonging. And he rejected it, not because he was better, but because he was finished. The others kept playing because they had not yet exhausted their illusions. He had. He saw that there is no peace in the center, only exposure. He saw that authenticity cannot be performed, that stillness cannot be monetized, that truth, if it exists at all, cannot survive an audience. So he destroyed the audience. Society labels this kind of disappearance as antisocial, detached, or lost. But these are the accusations of addicts mocking sobriety. He did not vanish because he was broken. He vanished because he understood the full cost of presence and refused to pay it. He understood what almost no one does. Participation is consent. To keep speaking when no one listens is obedience. To keep explaining when no one understands is desperation. To stay visible in a system that devours identity is suicide in slow motion. He refused that death, so he staged his own, not physically, but socially, professionally, digitally. He let the world assume his end, and by doing so, secured his beginning. This wasn't escape. It was the formation of a private republic. What remains once you strip away the audience? Once the applause stops and the message is dry and no one checks on you? What remains when no one is watching? That question most cannot face. It is the abyss behind the performance. But he walked into it with open eyes and found something there that all their noise had hidden. Himself. Not the self built by expectation, not the self shaped by feedback, not the self trained to win favor, but the raw self, the sovereign self, the unthemed self. He discovered that he was never supposed to be part of their world. He was supposed to witness it, map it, and leave it. Though he did. The world does not demand your participation because it cares. It demands your participation because it feeds. Visibility is not invitation, it is harvest. The system requires presence not to empower you, but to extract from you. Your identity is monetized. Your preferences are mapped. Your attention is sold in units. Your compliance is indexed, measured, and ranked. And every moment you stay present within its architecture, you are feeding it with data, with predictability, with self-disclosure. The man who vanished understood this architecture in its full brutality. He did not rage against it. He dissected it. He mapped its circuitry with the detachment of a surgeon. And he saw the hidden law beneath it all. If you can be seen, you can be shaped. Because what is visibility if not surveillance masquerading as opportunity? From birth, humans are conditioned into exposure. Children are praised when they perform, validated when they conform. School does not teach autonomy, it teaches compliance. It teaches that reward follows obedience and that safety follows transparency. Speak when spoken to, share your thoughts, announce your dreams, contribute, participate, be visible. This is not nurturing, this is calibration. Every social system requires legibility. You must be readable to be usable. The workplace demands resumes, social media demands updates, relationships demand emotional availability, and once your profile is complete, you are processed. The man rejected this early. He recognized that the urge to be seen is not instinct. It is implanted by institutions that cannot function without cooperation. The church, the school, the nation, the corporation. All are hungry for transparency. They call it trust. They call it openness. But in truth, it is logistics. It is easier to manage those who present themselves willingly, harder to control those who remain silent. The mechanism is elegant. Reward the expressive. Marginalize the silent. Punish the opaque. This keeps the herd visible, traceable, manipulable. He saw it. He declined. Consider the architecture of modern power. It no longer needs chains. It needs your voice. It needs your cooperation and your own domestication. The system incentivizes you to report on yourself, your location, your mood, your beliefs, your preferences. You offer it all, not under threat, but under the illusion of relevance. He called this what it was, self-surveillance. He saw that the system had outsourced its control. You no longer had to watch. You were trained to monitor yourself. Guilt keeps you in line. Hope keeps you compliant. Validation keeps you performing. And slowly, invisibly, you become a collaborator in your own diminishment. He refused the role. The structure of modern power is no longer the whip. It is the mirror. You are shown reflections of what you could be, should be, used to be. Success stories, curated avatars, digitally perfected masks. You are not punished through violence. You are punished through comparison. Envy becomes the leash. Aspiration becomes the muzzle. Chain becomes the handler. You keep running not because anyone is chasing you, but because you think someone else is ahead. That illusion keeps you in motion long after the race has ended. He stopped running. He realized that those who win the race are often the most exhausted slaves. This is not a conspiracy, it is structure. Systems do not conspire, they evolve. They adapt to incentivize what maintains their shape. And the most efficient way to maintain social order is not through fear, but through desire. A desire to belong, a desire to matter, a desire to be seen. He saw the price of that desire, and so he killed it. He made himself illegible, a ghost in the machine. He declined the constant performance of self. He erased the interfaces through which he could be calculated, scored, or sold. He did not abandon humanity, he abandoned its theater. Even rebellion has been commodified. Expressive dissent is permitted, even encouraged, as long as it remains within the framework of visibility. The system allows critique because it knows, so long as you're still talking, you're still feeding it. That's why his silence was dangerous. He didn't complain. He didn't post. He didn't protest. He left. He understood that true rejection is not noise, it is disappearance. The system cannot monetize absence. It cannot harvest what does not signal. It cannot punish what it cannot find. This was not cowardice, this was sophistication. They will tell you that silence is weakness, that withdrawal is defeat, that privacy is antisocial. But these are not moral judgments. They are security protocols. They are designed to corral the herd back into the feed. Because one man leaving is a glitch. 10,000 is collapse. He saw this and never looked back. Because the moment you understand the mechanism, participation becomes a choice and silence becomes a weapon. He did not fight the system. He made himself unfit for processing. He did not break the machine. He stopped being fuel. Once the veil was lifted, there was no going back. Understanding how the system functioned was not empowering, it was corrosive. Like acid poured over the scaffolding of one's identity. The moment the man saw the mechanism for what it was, every previous act of his life began to rot under inspection. Every yes he had ever given, every apology, every late-night reply, every attempt to explain himself, suddenly looked like participation in a farce. Not just a lie, a game rigged from the beginning. Awareness didn't liberate him. It isolated him. This is the cost no one speaks of. The price of clarity is disconnection. The illusion was warm. The noise had been comforting. But now, in silence, he could hear everything. He could feel the weight of all the roles he had shed. No longer a friend, no longer a professional, no longer reliable, visible, normal. Just a thing that watches, and in watching, no longer belongs. This isn't romantic, this is starvation. Clarity is a quiet violence. It doesn't scream, it doesn't demand. It removes, it detaches. It rips the stitching from your mind until the structure of your personality hangs in loose threads. The man didn't just lose others, he lost the self that others needed him to be. He stood in the wreckage of his old identity, not crying, calculating. When the rituals fall away, what remains is not peace, it's a vacuum. A silence so complete that most retreat from it in terror. That silence has no rules, no rhythm, no mirror. It does not clap. It does not respond. It does not tell you that you are good. And most people, faced with that void, return to the cage. Not because the cage is safe, but because the cage is known. He did not return. He stayed in the cold. Others tried to pull him back, not with cruelty, with concern, with softness. Are you okay? Come back. You're not yourself. But they were not invitations, they were demands. They needed him to play his role again, to be who he was before he stepped off the stage. They called it love. But love, in its modern form, is often just a contract. Be who I need you to be, so I don't feel abandoned. He broke the contract. He stopped being what others could recognize. He stopped mirroring back their importance. He stopped nodding, stopped smiling. And in doing so, he became something people couldn't categorize. And what people cannot categorize, they avoid or destroy. He was neither idol nor victim, just absence. There is a myth that truth brings power, but truth also brings paralysis. The paralysis of knowing too much to continue playing, but too little to rebuild something new. He did not speak this aloud. He had learned what speaking cost. He kept his knowledge sealed behind his teeth, not as a mystery, as protection. Because those who still believe will crucify anyone who reminds them that belief is optional, that participation is a choice, that meaning is not distributed, it is constructed. Violently, individually, and at great cost. So he wore his silence like armor. Some days were empty. Some nights, monstrous. Not from guilt. Not from regret. From observation. Watching the machine grind down those he once stood beside. Seeing them burn their time, their bodies, their dignity, in pursuit of something they never defined. Listening to them lie to themselves with urgency. He did not pity them. He remembered being one of them. And in his stillness, he saw the beauty of their delusion, the necessity of it. Most people need the lie. They are not equipped to survive without it. He understood this, and so he did not try to awaken anyone. He became a mirror so cold that no one lingered. Of the final transformation, truth does not make you free. It makes you foreign. To know how the world operates is to become unfit for it. You speak in a different cadence. You act with motives others don't recognize. You do not rush, and so you seem lazy. You do not explain, and so you seem arrogant. You do not share, and so you seem cold. In truth, you are simply done pretending. He was not a monk, not a guru, not enlightened. He was simply finished with the script. And once the mask is removed, it does not reattach. Those who chase the truth secretly hope it will comfort them. They hope to be wiser, more powerful, more in control. But the man's journey shows something else. You don't become more, you become less, or less entangled, less known, less human in the way humanity defines itself now, agreeable, visible, manageable. You lose warmth, but you gain accuracy. You lose company, but you gain solitude. You lose belief, but you gain vision. He stood in that trade-off, motionless, unblinking. And he understood, finally, why so few ever leave. Not because they can't, because they'd rather be loved for the lie than alone with the truth. There is no glory in disappearance, no applause, no arrival at a new utopia. There is only the edge, and your choice to stay there. He did not return, not because he couldn't, but because he understood that returning would require mutilating himself to fit back into the container he once shattered. And for what? Familiarity, approval, comfort? These are coins spent only by the desperate, and he had burned his desperation down to ash. This is the resolve, not hope, not transformation, not rebirth, just clarity sharpened into permanence. Once you've stepped out of the noise, you hear the weight of your former participation. You hear the pathetic rhythm of trying to be liked, the strain of performing, modesty, the humiliation of asking to be understood. He would never ask again. To disappear is easy. To remain gone, that's the discipline. The world will keep inventing reasons for your return, invitations laced with guilt, promises laced with nostalgia, concern disguised as control. But these are just the claws of the system trying to retake what it couldn't digest. He had become indigestible. This was the true power, not domination, not revenge, but the simple ability to say nothing, owe nothing, need nothing. He had nothing to prove. Power isn't loud. Power is refusal. Power is the man who can walk past the celebration and not flinch, past the applause and not turn his head, past the mirror and not look. Most people cannot bear the idea of not being seen. They crave the gaze, even when it burns them, because the gaze tells them they exist. But he knew better. He existed precisely because no one saw him. He existed in dimensions that could not be photographed. He thought in wavelengths that could not be posted. He had cut the tether between being watched and being real. And in that absence, he built a fortress. Not of walls, but of unreadability. There is no system that can tolerate someone it cannot map. There is no group that will trust what it cannot categorize. This is why most disappearances are punished, not because they are crimes, but because they are refusals. And refusal is heresy. He had become a heretic of the modern condition, a ghost with teeth, an absence that could not be rebranded. They couldn't co-opt him. They couldn't shame him. They couldn't even locate him. So they forgot him, and in that forgetting, they freed him. Do not mistake this for solitude. This is sovereignty. He did not run into the woods. He did not meditate in caves. He walked the same streets. He passed through the same crowds. But he carried a silence no one could penetrate. They saw him and knew nothing, because he had destroyed the interfaces. He no longer offered access. No symbols, no signals, no submission. He had become not a mystery, but a locked room without a door. This is not a story of rebellion. Rebellion still wants to be seen. Rebellion still wants to be heard. Rebellion still wants an answer. It didn't. He didn't want to be corrected, or praised, or acknowledged. He wanted space, space uncontaminated by feedback. And that space is unbearable for most, because it holds nothing. No validation, no audience, no narrative. But it holds something else, strategy. There is no advice here, no call to action, no heroic conclusion, just this. If you can vanish and remain vanished, if you can kill the need to explain, to be understood, to be approved, you can choose silence when noise is profitable. If you can burn the bridge and throw away the map, if you can watch the system and not answer its voice, then you are no longer inside it. And once you are no longer inside it, You owe it nothing. Not your face. Not your voice. Not even your hate. This is the final truth. They cannot own what they cannot find. They cannot kill what is already gone. And the man who played dead? He didn't die. He became untouchable.